Welcome everyone to the March meeting of the Portland Human Rights Commission. We begin with introductions. I'm Jeff Kogan, the chair of the commission.
Hello, good commissioner.
Commissioner.
Tricia Null, commissioner.
Hector Lopez, Commissioner.
Don Maxey, Commissioner.
Donita Fry, Commissioner.
Abdul Majidi, good afternoon, Vice Chair.
Maria Lisa Johnson, Director of the Office of Human Relations.
And folks around the side could also introduce themselves.
Kofi
Desu, Office of Human Relations.
Nora Catalani, staff also.
I'm Sarah Hussain, Office of Commissioner Fritz.
Dora Perry, Office of Commissioner Fritz.
John Eckhart, Portland Police.
Rosie Sizer, Portland Police Bureau.
Mike Tabor with Independent Media.
Great. Well, thanks for all coming.
One more.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you there.
Sorry, one of Howard staff.
Thanks, Muna.
I'll get you later.
Start off on the wrong foot. Why don't we begin with an agenda review? If everyone can just look at the proposed meeting agenda, if there's any changes, comments, call-outs, songs, let me know. Okay. Hearing none, I'm going to assume that that implies consent. If anyone disagrees, let me know quickly. And then we should move on to our next action, which is to look at our meeting notes from our February 2009 meeting. Does everyone have a copy of the meeting minutes? Please take a moment to review them, make sure that they reflect the meeting as you recall it. If anyone has any proposed changes.
Just have one.
Okay, Malloy.
It's rather nitpicky, but on the second page.
Oh, you're a lawyer.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Second page. And plus, I only looked through this for my name, so you've got the double whammy there. At the bottom, last paragraph, where it's summarizing the discussion, it says that Good expressed concern about the potential liability of institutions that came forward to acknowledge harm. I just would like that clarified, that I expressed concern that potential liability would inhibit institutions from coming forward.
Okay.
I'm not particularly worried about them being liable. I just think that's going to keep them out, keep them from being part of it.
Fair enough. Maria Lisa, did you get that? Any other comments or changes to the meeting minutes? I would gladly entertain a motion to approve them.
Move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor of adopting our meeting minutes? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We have minutes. Now, our next agenda item is an attempt that we came up with an executive committee to begin moving forward with defining our priorities. And I will say that the context here is, it was very clear at the last meeting that people want to start moving forward with tangible issues. We've gotten ourselves together in terms of how we're going to coordinate with each other, how we're going to make decisions. We've begun to identify some committees which we know we want to have. But there's a real sense that we want to start moving forward. It's also the case that there is a RFP on the street to begin a strategic planning process. And so, mindful of the fact that on the one hand, we don't want to get so far ahead of ourselves that the strategic planning process is irrelevant. And on the other hand, I don't think anyone wants to sit around and wait until we get done with the strategic planning process before we begin to identify the areas we want to pursue. We thought that one thing we could do is begin with a little exercise to see if we can develop some broad consensus around some areas. And what we came up with was the notion that everyone here would write down 3 ideas, the 3 things that they know they'd like to see the Human Rights Commission pursue. Everyone who's a member of the Human Rights Commission, I should say, for those of you who are in the audience. And so I'd like to ask to take just a couple of minutes. Hopefully you got an email telling, this is not supposed to be a surprise. We did send this out in an email, so hopefully at least some of you have had a chance to ponder that. But just in case you haven't, take a few minutes, think about this. Feel free to talk among ourselves while we do this. And then take a piece of paper. You don't have a piece of paper?
We have
Oh.
some so that it will make it easier for Muna to then capture the ideas. And
Perfect.
sort of-
So the idea is that we're going
Take
to
three.
write down the three now, and then as we proceed with our agenda today, Muna's going to see what we came up with, and later on in the meeting, we're going to report back out and see what we found.
So take three for ease of sorting.
Yes. 3 for ease of sorting. Oh, 3. Oh, the idea is take 3 pieces.
Three.
Oh, okay. I was going to put 3 on 1. That makes more sense. All right. Everyone takes 3 Post-its. 1 Post-it per idea.
Yeah.
You don't want to
No
danger.
squishing.
Yeah, no smushing
No
of ideas.
squishing.
Does everyone have Post-its who is in need of Post-its? All right. So, think about the 3 issue areas as you think of them, as you define them. There's no right or wrong way, and we don't know what we're going to come up with, but we're hoping it'll be an interesting result. And they can include things that we know we're going to be focusing on, or things that no one's ever thought of before. Whatever seems appropriate to you.
Offering plate, offering plate. Know how to do this?
The little yellow sheets? The summary?
So, has everyone now finished with their 3 priorities? Anyone who's still working on it? Great. Thank you for that. Our next agenda item is our director's report. Maria Lisa, take it away.
Thank you. Okay, so I have a couple items, and I'll add a plug for the immigrant and refugee affairs program as well. On the budget update, several of us went to 3 budget forums, kind of chaotic. I think the city is experimenting with different ways of gathering input from folks, and essentially this time around it was about prioritizing programs at each bureau table, and so folks were there, but Tricia, you can weigh in, Abdul weigh in about how you saw it as meaningful or not.
It appeared to me that in each locale there were hot button issues for that neighborhood. In North Portland, the police issues were big, as well as housing. Our program, because we were kind of lumped with ONI, ended up not being a hot button issue. And the initial polling that was done for the Office of Human Relations in terms of how high you rank services was based on some things that OMF put together. And for example, it talked about the Office of Human Relations, that the goal was to educate the public about the UN's human rights documents, which, was, so of course people would read that and look at it and go, well, that's it. So there were, they did allow that to be corrected, but it was still in the principal package. I went around and did some convincing with Commissioner Fish, Commissioner Leonard, and basically with the 2 of, and Commissioner Saltzman. And they were all very receptive to messages. I had talking points, and I was, kind of hitting them in terms of what the budget cut meant and the one-time only money. And I would say that they were all very appropriately listening to what to what I had to say, and I've worked with all of them in some, well, except Commissioner Fish in some capacity, over the years. You know, and they were pretty much taking the line, boy, this is just a terrible budget cycle, and we don't know what's gonna happen. So we need to be prepared for that, because, you know, that is, I think, that's what we're gonna get. And I think it is gonna be, I think that any letter writing and emailing that we can get people to do, or phone calling, is gonna be more impactful than the budget committee meetings were, but we needed to be there anyway, because that is going to be, I mean, the city's done that format for a long, long time. They're going to continue to do it, and you know, it's not easy to say what the outcome is in terms of what you get for showing up, but you have to show up.
Right. So I appreciate both of your presence and others who came and joined us, like Garland and some of the folks from back who voted at the tables, and I know each of you has been doing some outreach with the commission. We have an update about the actual numbers, and it's in a very brief format at the second page of your packet today. And it's the good news is that there is some good news.
Oh, yeah, really.
OMF, the Office of Management and Finance, made a mistake in categorizing one of our. Do you have this one? I don't want to think you're So the Office of Management and Finance made a mistake in categorizing the Immigrant and Refugee Affairs, the resources allocated for that program. And initially they were what is called a shadow obligation, which is a promise, but could or might not go through. Now it's a set aside, which means it is actually part of the allocation for this year. So that is not a cut we are facing. But it is a one-time only position funded for 1 more year. So again, we still have nearly half the Bureau in one-time only funds. It's going to be funded for this coming year, but then after that, it's once again starting for that resource. The challenging news is that, as with every bureau is assigned a finance analyst, a financial analyst, and they decide whether or not to support your package, your requests, based on the city's total requests and based on their priority to balance the budget. And the priorities that are coming from the mayor's office, which is where that bureau sits. And we had, in addition to the Immigrant and Refugee Program ad package, which is now no longer an issue, we had an additional 3 packages. One was for the Community and Peace Building Program, the full position plus supports. The second ad package was for the Human Rights Commission, for you all to be able to do work in a way that was supportive and creative of your strategies, to hire consultants, to bring in speakers, to create educational materials, whatever you decided to do, we set aside some money for that and put together an ad package. The third request is for an entity within the city that we are just an umbrella for. It's the Diverse and Empowered Employees of Portland. Some of you may have heard of them. They're an internal group really trying to support diverse employees throughout the city and throughout the bureaus, and having a space where their issues and concerns are supported and where they can do recruitment for new positions. None of those ad packages will be supported by the office.
Can you tell us how much each one of those packages is?
From my memory,
Okay.
I'm sorry. This is not good.
Okay.
I can pull that up for you in a bit. I'm having memory challenges around the Community and Peace Building Program. I think it was close to 145. I can't remember that piece.
Okay.
The other one was $50,000 for the Human Rights Commission, and I believe $28,000 for DEEP. Yeah. So none of those are being supported. What this results in is a 37% cut in our budget. It used to be 51, now it's 37. It's still a significant cut for a small entity. So as Tricia was saying, it's important for us to get our advocacy out, to get our calls in. We have 2 letters that have gone in so far, and I know many of you have reached out and had individual conversations. It would be good to know how many of you are reaching out so that we can track that. I have listed on the sheet all the contacts of the various commissioners and some information about meetings and whether a commission will take a call or a meeting. Warren Jimenez is the Deputy Director or the Deputy Chief of Staff for San Manas. He is our Bureau liaison, and she would be the person we would get to meet with if we got a chance to meet. So I'm waiting for a call back from him. Amanda Fritz, she may welcome a visit or she may welcome calls. I don't know, Dora, you may be able to tell us if it's useful for us to meet with her or if she's fully on board.
Well, she's fully on board.
Okay.
It's something to do with the
But yeah, don't need to call. Commissioner Fish, he is more available by phone or letter, and his Bureau of Housing and Community Development, I should say, has a significant request for one-time only funds. So that's in his mind competing with any other request for one-time only funds. And then Commissioner Leonard, we have a meeting with him on March 19th at 4 p.m. If you all can join the delegation, contact that booth. And Dan Saltzman, we have 2 times holding, so whichever is best, we'll keep, and for a half hour. Again, Abdul has offered to be the lead on this, and so if you can come and join him, that's great. Reverend Haynes will be calling Commissioner Fish. He's from the advisory group. I realize Ed Guerin has also started making some calls. So others of you, it would be great if we knew who is doing what, so that we can be coordinated in our efforts. And I believe Flo is also gathering a contingent of folks to do some advocacy, and we'll have a separate budget forum with immigrant and refugee communities for the city apart from all this. And we don't know the date yet, but that will be announced soon. So
Well,
that's
since the program that we heard about at our last meeting, which involved the members of the community that met with police officers, is within the program that definitely, I mean, you know, that work, doesn't that fall within that ad package? Might it not be effective to have some of the people that participated in that get the word out
yes,
about?
Definitely. I think that the more we can articulate our message, and I did prepare a very brief fact sheet on our work. It's very brief, but some talking points, some ideas about what you can highlight, what our work is so far. That would be good to read. So in case you are asked, well, why are you on the Human Rights Commission, or what does this office do, you can answer some of these questions. And again, we're happy to answer any questions for you and help prep you in the process of doing your outreach.
Quick question. Silly me. I could have sworn I remember hearing these verbose speeches when we were installed by each of the commissioners about what the importance they felt this office held and how they were going to fully support it. Now, was I confused or did I hear that?
No, you did hear that. And this is
Having said that, you know, I'm just checking. Because, you know, I have been known to make mistakes before. I just thought I would check. So my concern is that, you know, when economic times are bad, that the first thing that goes are human rights. You know, we focus on the economic aspects of things because we really are all struggling, but people's human rights get violated tremendously. And I don't know how we can bring that out and remind them of that. I mean, is there something we can do? Like, my experience is that politicians respond very readily to emails and faxes and phone calls and they, you know, around those issues, and maybe we need to be getting out in the community and talking to various groups and having people flood their offices with calls.
As a politician, I can confirm that.
Yeah. Yes, Donna. Not only, I think so much of this is political, like you say, and we need to start getting out the stories, and there are stories. And nationally and internationally, we're seeing an increase of scapegoating of low income, of immigrant communities, of communities of color. Because of the economic downturn, organizations are beginning to track this. We also have some successful interventions in human rights cases, and then some stories from our various programs that we need to highlight. And I don't know, Jeff, if it would be appropriate, but maybe we can share some of these stories here with you so that you can have those stories in your mind as we start to articulate why there is a need.
What I'd like for us to do is maybe discuss groups that we think each of us could maybe focus on. And what, you know, how we can get people sending, did you have their fax number on there? Email addresses on here?
Everything is there on that sheet.
Okay, I didn't remember that. Okay, good. No, I don't see a fax. Boy.
Oh, yeah, no.
You want to blow that fax up too.
That's interesting, no one on fax contacts.
People aren't using fax.
I don't think that that's,
You don't
Just
think
email?
if you can email, it might. Oh, I'm showing my
That
age.
was ancient.
We have not been getting any fax.
I look good for my age.
In fact, we don't have a fax.
Well, anyway, email and phone calls, because I know they keep track of the calls. And they keep a tally there
Right.
of how many
That's-
calls they have. They might not necessarily keep track of who called, but they do keep track of the call. Yes, you shaking your head? Yes, yes.
Yeah. And the phone numbers are right in front of you.
Yeah.
So I hope you make the calls.
I don't know how much clout we have yet. I know that individually there's folks here who have a lot of it. To put together something like a press conference in which some of those stories can be told in the most positive way. This is what's at risk. This is what's at risk by cutting the budget of this commission. I can tell you the impact of an article that came out yesterday has resonated in the community that I work with incredibly well. That was a story in Hope. I mean, I got calls left and right because many of them know that we work together. So I'm not sure if it's time to do that, but it would probably be appropriate to do something before budget decisions are made.
Yeah.
Was this
We've
a
been talking about
newspaper
this in
article?
talking
Here.
We'll pass it around in a bit.
Could you
So
make
you can
copies
see it.
Or send us an email link to the online? Yeah.
Yes, it's important to get the stories out, and we've been talking about a media strategy, and Polo is really good at that. And we also need to get the stories out from the human rights work that we're doing, and also the stories about the commission and what it projects to do that is so visionary, because it is. So it would be good to maybe in committee or in the budget advisory committee quickly meet to strategize on that.
Did you want to say something, Rosie?
Yeah, I don't
I'm
know if
sorry.
it's appropriate for me. What is your date of your presentation before council?
March 10th,
At what time?
11:30.
That's next Tuesday.
Yes, essentially we have 10 minutes to make a plug for our budget, and then the Office
10
of
minutes,
Management
yeah.
and Finance will take it all down. And then we get questions from council. So there's no opportunity for testimony there, but I think your presence there in support, and we'll have folks, only folks will be holding signs, and then also will be holding signs in support of just human investments in human projects.
If we create a ruckus, do we have the chief's support in our election?
Well, my other advice is to use that template for how much time is allotted to various things very loosely, because that's an OMF document, and they usually allot more time to themselves than really is ever materialized. So you'll get a sign from the commissioners if they're tired of hearing from you, but I would just use it as a loose reference and not hold to it strictly.
You know, if ONI is showing up with signs that say ONI, is that what they're?
No, they will say the time is when better than now to invest in social capital, people, in human rights.
Might be effective to come in
neighborhoods.
with pictures of people who are big victims of human rights abuse.
I don't know if they can see from far away,
Yeah.
but bring them in.
The other
Bodies
thing
and noise.
I don't think it would hurt to go back in the annals of the HRC and find out what kinds of things that they helped to bring about before, because I'm sure we'll be revisiting those issues again. So I think you can speak very clearly about historically the HRC has done da-da-da-da-da. And you know, even call upon other human relations commissions of other places and what they have managed to do. South Africa, for one.
Yes, that is actually probably going to be a question to us as we're looking to best practices. It has been a question in the templates that we're getting. Where are you looking to for best practices? What are the models nationally? So thank you for that.
What's the cut, the broad cut that the city's taking?
Is it,
What
17 million.
what does that represent as part of the general fund? That's probably less than 10%, right?
I think it's about, I think Andrew Scott was saying he was hoping for, across the board, it'd be in the 4% range. Public safety a little less, and everybody else closer to 5.
right.
Well, I think it would be important to frame it that way too. The city's taking 5%, 4 or 5% cut, and they're looking at just 37%. I mean, just the disparity of that makes it seem like they're focusing on cutting human rights. Human Relations Commission, I think that's outrageous and should be.
Yeah, percentage-wise, it is a big cut. I think that planning comes close, but not, I think it's a 30% cut in planning, and there is a merger of 2 bureaus, so that is part of that.
Yeah.
But it's also a bureau that was funded with a lot of attention.
Can I just respond to one thing that was shared about holding pictures of people who may have been harmed? I think we all, of course, get to approach how we do advocacy work from a different position, but I would prefer to come from a vision of what we would want in the world.
Okay.
And I like the message of investing in social capital, investing in people, investing in peace, all of those messages. Certainly, I don't want to gloss over the fact that people are being harmed in great measure, either through physical harm or...
I think you're right.
But yeah, it just, as somebody who's done a lot of criminal justice work, it's just, it doesn't, I think it turns people off to have to be confronted that way, rather than inviting a dialogue, which is what I would hope we could do.
There's much more on this, and again, I mean, we have a budget advisory committee, but we welcome your suggestions and also your support in actually just making that call or writing a letter. We have a letter that everyone signed not to accept, but Pietra could never get a hold of, so that letter went forward. But then even your individual connection to the commissioners are really important. Okay, so given the context of a diminishing budget, we this year had some monies for infrastructure development, which are truly one-time only, special allocation, which I decided to capture in whatever way I could, not only for the space, furniture that is coming eventually, but also to enhance some of the work. And we have 2 RFPs out on the street. One is for a strategic planning process and also a PR program, a media package, a media strategy, the whole communications piece to enhance that and to help the Human Rights Commission with its strategic planning, with its strategic plan. This RFP will close on Friday, and so it's very quick, and we hope to have a decision within 2 weeks so that we can have that person on board helping us now. The good thing about this resource is that even though we allocated, let's say this RFP or the contract gets signed in April or May, it can go for as long as we want it to through the end of next fiscal year. So we can capture that money now and use it for a whole fiscal year, or a whole 12 months. The other RFP is focused on our building our... Is there interference? Oh, okay. No, this changed ways, huh?
Yeah.
It's not coming from us.
No. It's over there. Muno's over there.
Okay. It might be the speakers. Anyway, the other RFP is focused on work that emerged from the Racial Profiling Committee. Our interest in really building capacity within communities to be able to host and carry forward dialogues around difference. And we hope to pilot this program with the Police Bureau. This is a contract for $70,000 to train folks to really host and carry forward these conversations in a number of communities. And we pilot it there, but it could lead to other work, such as the Bishop Desmond Tutu dialogues on truth and reconciliation. So it's again capturing a resource now so that we can build our capacity, train ourselves, get support in addition to the staff that are here. And then as a final plug, I'm still living, right? Miracle. I'll take questions in a bit, but I just wanted to let you know that this past weekend, Friday, Saturday, we had some very nice work coming from the Immigrant and Refugee Program Affairs Program, or should we call it the Newcomer Program. One was, the program launched in conjunction with the Center for Intercultural Organizing and Latino Network in the United Way, and I can't remember if there's another
Latino Network.
Okay.
Born in America.
Okay. Last Friday's of art, and it was hugely attended. Very exciting to see so many communities coming together to celebrate the arts in immigrant and refugee communities. So Polo is passing out that announcement. It's an ongoing event every last Friday of the month. And as Hector was mentioning, the program and Polo was also featured in the Oregonian. And so I believe, is that article circulating? Can you circulate it to see?
We don't have staples here. Maybe
So
next year.
congratulations, Polo, you got out there.
You get this whole pie?
We do? Can I say something briefly about it? We're handing it out for a couple of reasons, really only two. One is, in the Oregonian article, we're trying to settle on a new lexicon, you know, because immigrants are not so popular. And for folks who went to the 3 county or city budget forums the other day, we had to compete with parks, we had to compete with transportation, we had to compete with cops. So folks had their tables, and then residents went to the tables to ask questions, to vote on what programs in each of the bureaus they felt were the best use of their money. And immigrants, of course, if we were left to a populist democracy, would not come up as very important during a time of shrinking government, a time of shrinking generosity. So that, for that reason, for many others, we're calling people newcomer Portland, or Portland newcomers. Okay, let's get out of the immigration conversation. What I see at the store is people needing to go to work. What I see at the bus stops is men, you know, going home to their families. I don't know what it has to do with immigrants or whatever. It just seems to me that a more open-hearted, broad-shouldered approach, and that's the language I use in this article, has to do with just simple working people and folks wanting their kids to look nice when school starts in September. So that's what we concluded here. The bigger picture then, and this is that, is, and I'll leave it to you how to work this into the mission of human rights in Portland. For us, our newcomers represent a tremendous optimism and ambition and energy. You know, we have social and cultural and spiritual capital that America really, really longs for. And I'm tempted to say that we want the financial and material capital America has, and America needs what we have just about as badly. And that's the trade from now forward. In my work, I like not to talk about needy immigrants. I mean, for heaven's sake, we've got tier after tier after tier of needy brown people, and I think folks are really done with that. We emphasize what it is we're bringing to America. And if you remember the times when America was a little less closed about immigration law, that's when America was at its best. With that new energy coming in all the time, revitalizing, integrating this country, that's the exceptional America we know, and the ones our parents were thinking about in coming here. Okay, so that's this every last Friday. This was supposed to, we brought enough people, food for 50 people, we had 220.
Wow.
And it was all night long. Poets, painters, musicians. It was barely controlled chaos. We had people singing in Persian, folks reciting poetry in Arabic, of course Pablo Neruda in Spanish, and children, grandpas, and folks my generation too. So please come, I think some dates are on here. and play with us.
That's the director's report, okay. Any questions from Maria Lisa before we move on? Or for Paula? Great, well, our next agenda item are committee updates. So, Hector, if you don't mind, the Community and Police Relations Committee, you get to go first.
Okay. I hope everyone has copies of our minutes. Maria Lisa?
No, I'm sorry.
My whole report is based on that.
Okay, speak it.
I'm sure you can remember it.
Well, when you do have it, I'm just giving a brief review, so please read those minutes. They're very critical. The committee has met twice, on the 5th and on the 18th of February. At the February 5th meeting, the attendees were Commissioners Fry, Lopez, and Majidi, staff Johnson, Bethune, and from the Commissioners Fritz's office, Dora Perry, Shannon Callahan from Commissioner Saltzman's office, and Mike Tabor was there, as well as Marta Gwyndas. The committee heard history and background from Ms. Johnson, which provided the context for the establishment of these community and police relations. Indicating that this committee will be one of the continuing realities of the racial profiling committee which sat before us. The committee reflected on possible mission and purpose of our task. We shared thoughts on what we would like to see at the end of 5 years as a result of our collective work, sort of like what you just did, Jeff. And we talked about the values that we felt underlined our work. We discussed committee composition and criteria for participation. We then heard from the public, and this may be the last time I will quote the public because we went from 2 to about 10 for the next meeting. But Mr. Tabor proposed a vision of mutual respect between the community and the police. Ms. Gwyndas added trust as a value and recommended that membership recruitment should be less bureaucratic and more accessible to the community. At the 18th meeting, we had the same people attending, except from the Police Bureau. We had Chief Sizer and Assistant Chief Martinek. Did I say that correctly? And we had an assortment of people from the community. After reviewing and lively discussing the work done previously on mission, values, and goals, the committee approved the following statement as their mission statement. And have they seen it?
No, sorry. I tend to confuse people when I send too much committee stuff.
Okay.
But
I'll read it to you and then you'll have access to it. To bring together members of Portland communities and its police officers to improve community and police relations, to further an authentic community policing culture, and to promote dignity, understanding, and respect in community interactions. No, we will not take any recommended suggestions from them. This is it.
Luckily, it's perfect.
This is it. Obviously, it took us some time to get there, but the process was incredibly helpful. And everyone participated, the commissioners, police bureau folk, our guests from the community, staff. It was just a marvelous experience. All right, then we went following another lively discussion on composition. The committee adopted an 11-member committee to be made up of 4 members from HRC, 3 from the Police Bureau, and 4 from the community. And again, we got very helpful suggestions from the community members because we were going debating whether we should have 96 or 3 or what. And then somebody said, why don't you just pick an arbitrary number and see if that works. If it doesn't, then it adjusts. So we did. 11 was what we came up with. We also discussed further the recruitment criteria form that staff had shared with us, a draft, and we asked them to finalize the form for our next meeting based on the discussion that was held at our February 18th meeting. We heard public comment. There were so many excellent recommendations, suggestions, and comments that I didn't write them down, but please read them when you do have access to those minutes. The committee then adopted the third Wednesday of every month from 4 to 6 p.m. as our official meeting schedule time. Two things that we will be doing immediately. One is that the Community Relations Committee, is that CRC? Is that what it stands for?
No, community, is it?
CRC.
Review committee.
Thank you.
Review
I don't know why I forgot.
committee. You were the chair.
Too many years. The Community Review Committee of the Independent Police Bureau has asked our committee to review and comment on the report issued recently on disparate treatment complaints developed by the bias-based police work group of CRC. And the other item is, at the request of Chief Sizer, we will be co-hosting community input sessions on the police plan to end racial profiling. So, those are our immediate tasks. Next meeting will be March 18th from 4 to 6 p.m. This really does not do justice to the incredible work that the commissioners, the staff, and the community have done in these last two meetings. It's just really wonderful work. So thank you all. Any questions, comments, or critiques? Keep the critiques to yourself.
You were talking about recruitment of the community members. How will that occur and what's the timeline for that?
Good question. We don't have a timeline. We have this.
Right.
And the recruitment will be based on utilizing all of us to make sure that it gets to the community, plus the appropriate media and outlets that the city uses.
So, may I add something? Is also we will have an application. Mary Lisa have been helpful by bringing us the application and reviewing it and see what we need to take off, something to add, etc. And then we will be going through a selection process by the committee, then make recommendations to our Human Rights Commission to decide who should be in there. And they appreciate also Chief Sizer about recommendation also that have from her side, because we're talking about 3 from her office, but we'll have more than that to choose from as well. So that's really appreciated that trusting us to do that. So.
Sounds like you're up to a great start.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah, they're doing good work.
Anything else on the Community and Police Relations Committee? In that case, Harlan, if you could give us an update on the Bishop
Sure.
dialogue on reconciliation.
Sure, and I have some handouts, but I think I'll just say a couple things first so that the handouts had some context. So we met 2 weeks ago, I think, at a local diner and had a very kind of casual discussion about what this could look like. So again, the minutes from that meeting, I think were all shared and I feel like they do a pretty good job of capturing the discussions. It's, there's no way that you can really capture something without actually being there, but notes can be helpful. We're talking about a pretty broad definition of harm. I think sometimes it's difficult for people who maybe have a legal background or, for me as a criminal justice activist, like to take our hats off or our definition of what we think of as harm, kind of be willing to let go of that in these dialogues. Because certainly I think we're talking about the kinds of harm that would fall into a crime definition, but we're also talking about, I have a friend that I've been talking to who's experiencing a hostile work environment. There's a lot of conflict that happens in communities that wouldn't fall into the legal definitions that exist, but what I personally am drawn to about this dialogue process is that we have a way of addressing the larger sense of fragmentation that can exist in communities because of racial discrimination, because of homophobia, because of ableism, because of all of the different ways that people make judgments of each other that separate us. Trying to begin and design a process that would allow us to be able to create space for people to have dialogues around these kinds of harm. We talked about staggering the focus of the dialogues over time so that people from various communities knew that we had a plan to address different forms of harm, but that, we can't focus on, racism, ableism, homophobia, all of it in one year or even at one time. But we would like to be able to convey that we want to address all of it, but we need to have kind of a focus on one piece of the pie at a time. We talked about being clear that we wanted to have more of a focus on accountability for people. This being outside of the criminal justice context, that it's, and for me, accountability is actually, can be much more rigorous than a punishment-based system. If somebody who's done harm to somebody else is sitting across from that person and listening to what their experiences are or how their choices affected their life, that can be much more transformative both for the person who's done the harm as well as the person who's experienced harm. And we talked about that in a variety of settings, either everything from the living room conversations that are happening right now with folks from the Portland Police Bureau and people in the Latino community, to larger settings where dialogue could happen in a forum kind of situation. So we're still we're still working on what the groups and the settings could look like, but we talked about a whole range. And then we also talked about the various models that exist. The South African Truth and Reconciliation Commission, obviously Desmond Tutu was the chair of that particular commission. It's one of the best known examples for dialogues or for a restorative justice process. But it is only one. There are actually a number of examples internationally of both Truth and Reconciliation Commissions, and then there's models. I believe Eddie brought up the sustained dialogue model, and models for New Zealand. The Canadian school system has various models as well. So there is a lot of information that's available for us. Hector, not to put you on the spot, but I'm wondering if you want to give an update about conversations with Desmond Tutu's staff.
As many of you know, Bishop Desmond Tutu will be in town May 4th, right. He will be speaking at the Child Center at 6 p.m. And we thought, since we have been considering naming this dialogue, this attempt to reconcile ourselves to one another, by calling it is he still a bishop or is he an archbishop?
He's always an
archbishop. Well, I was going to say cardinal, but I guess we don't have those, right?
Anglicans don't have cardinals.
Anyway, Archbishop Desmond Tutu, Reconciliation Dialogue. And if he were to be here at that time, what an appropriate time for us to inaugurate our work with his presence here. So we've asked the Jan Alfred, Ecumenical Ministries of Oregon, who is helping to organize the local situation here, to be in contact with the bishop's staff to see if the bishop would consider a number of scenarios, given their agenda and their time, to come to a setting such as City Hall or other appropriate setting and receive the acknowledgement of this inauguration, because he has much to do with it, and maybe give him rename the city after Bishop Tutu.
Do we have that power?
Bishop Tutu City, so that's one scenario that we really would love to have, is to have him come and do this in the presence of official and community. Another would be, if that's not possible, can we, in one of the settings that he will find himself, have some time in the agenda to present this inauguration process. So that's what they're working on. We've not heard aye or nay, but Jan feels that something can and will be worked out, so we're hoping.
So what could definitely be worked out is a proclamation around this effort, because That's simple.
Yeah, so, yeah, it's exciting. I'm gonna keep putting my hopes towards actually having a space where he could meet all of us and give his formal blessings with the process. So, yeah, Danita, do you have something you want to add to the
No, I think
discussion?
it was a wonderful discussion, very hopeful. And the opportunity to share that hope or that discussion opportunity with a larger community is very heartwarming.
There is a model close by. It's in Vancouver, or it was, and it's called Victim Offender Mediation. And I know it worked for teenagers. I was one of the mediators for that program, and I don't know if they still have the program or not. But it was, yeah, it was great. Really good program, so that might be something you want to look into as a local model also.
Yeah, thank you. I'm familiar with Eric Gilman as the director and Ernie, I remember Ernie's last name.
I can't remember. It's been a few years since I've seen it.
Yeah. Take questions, and I'm going to start handing out those 2 papers in there.
Having missed one meeting, I feel like I'm totally out of it. Yeah, but, I mean, I knew about Desmond Tutu, but is there a plan, a timeline plan? I hear Hector saying that you might be kicking off the dialogue when he is here. Is there a plan as to who would be invited to participate, how they would be invited, and how the word would get out that this is not a, I mean, the Truth and Reconciliation holds a weighted meaning for South Africa, and to put that into the context